welcome to this week's episode of UC Weekly News. I'm your host, as always, David Danto, and you have your other host with me, Neil Fluester, is joining me from the UK. Where are you in the UK nowadays?
I'm in Southwest London, David. It's
So,
great to be back on a show with you again.
it's great to be back with you. We've done this the reunions and reunions and all the rest of that, and we've both been traveling. I was in San Diego last week for WebEx1, and you had a road show last week, right?
Yeah, we've had Logi work, which has been across Europe actually. So about six or eight different venues. I guess the cat's now out of the bag that I'm now working for Logitech. So let's, spoiler alert, I've been at Logi work in both London and Warsaw the last 2 weeks, and we opened a new office in London. But yeah, I'm now head of portfolio and alliances for Logitech, which is
Well,
super.
congratulations on the new role. What does it involve doing?
Yeah, so I'm expanding my alliances role and also expanding my portfolio. I've done video conferencing in UC for goodness knows how many years, coming up to 25 odd years now, probably. Back to ISDN days. I can't go as far back as you, but now I'm adding in. I think one of the things that COVID and hybrid working showed us was the fact that meeting rooms were only one part of the story, and the fact that people were hybrid working, working remotely, working from home, there was all that challenge, always that challenge of like, how are we going to kind of embrace and increase their productivity across their home environment, their remote environment? And again, that's one of the great things I'm really excited about with Logitech is that kind of whole personal workspace as well as the meeting room workspace. So I'm going to be covering off both VC in the meeting room as well as keyboards, mouse, webcams, docks, and all that good stuff.
So let's take a little bit of the journey there. And you've been there a whole 3 weeks, so I don't expect you to know everything. And believe me, don't expect me to know everything either. But I know
Yeah, I'll be asking
earlier
you.
earlier this year there was a refresh of the Meetup, right? Meetup
Yeah.
2 is the current product, and the latest product was the new board, right?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
Logi board, and one of the key things about that one, as opposed to the other boards on the market, is you can flip it and have the camera on the top or the bottom, which is kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, the meetup really kind of set the. I think. I mean, I may be wrong, but it was one of like the first BYOD bars back in 2015, 16. Again, way before my time at Logitech. But it kind of set the standard, and I liken it. There's an advert that was in the UK. You may not have had it in North America, which Volkswagen did, which was they had a bunch of competitors and they were showing off features of cars, and they're saying it's like a Golf. So they would shut the door and say it's like a Golf, and they would start it sounds like a Golf, it feels like a Golf, because that was the measure. The VW Golf was like the measure of a kind of premium car that everyone could relate to. And I think the meetup really kind of had that. In our probably previous life, we kind of said it's like a meetup when we were talking to customers about video bars. And it was that everyone knew the meetup. It's like a C930 webcam from Logitech. Everyone knows that as a baseline, so it's easy to compare against it. And obviously the meetup 2 now adds to that. And the rally board, it's a great innovation in the fact of there's that classic thing of, if you're using it to stand up, you want the camera up high, but then if you've got it at a table, you don't want that kind of look down. My hair's starting to thin out. You want the camera down low. So the fact you can flip it, use it with a traditional table, really helps it kind of work in both spaces. Wheel it around, use it as a stand up in like a huddle scrum, use it with a table in a meeting room.
So we have three more paths to follow down. We've got the camera path. This was one of
Yep.
the first Logitech Brios, really nice
Yep.
HD camera, and there have been like 9 generations since then. I keep this loose so that I use this camera when I'm talking to people, but when I show them what I'm looking at my desk, I switch to this
Mm.
one. So
It was
it's
one of the first cameras that had Windows Hello, and again, obviously, as a Microsoft fanboy, other platforms are available. But the fact that it has Windows Hello on that Brio 4K really is great. Again, it does that kind of auto login, so you don't have to sit there, type your password in, and all that sort of stuff. So it's a unique camera in the Logitech portfolio, and the fact that it has that Microsoft
Mhm.
Windows Hello capability, which is
And
really nice.
Logitech goes all the way back to the C930,
Oh,
the
and yeah,
wide
but way
camera,
before that as well. I mean,
and
I think we all remember the C930 is a legendary camera. But yeah, I mean, there's tons. I mean, I had a bit of a on my onboarding. We had a great history lesson about where the mouse
oh,
came
there you
from,
go.
and back in 1960 somewhere in Stanford University, the guy who invented the first mouse, I mean, you always remember, you probably, again, this great anecdote. How many times did you used to have to take the ball out and then wipe the fluff off the rollers because it would,
I actually had a mouse cleaning tool that,
yeah,
go in there
it
and
would
clean
kind of
it.
stutter and stuff, and you're like, oh, okay. You'd kind of flip the thing, pull the ball out, and in our computer science lessons, I remember at school we used to lob the balls around the classroom. But we're now optical, like 9,000 DPI optical sensors on these mice now. So
Which you don't have any worries about having to clean the ball or the contacts, but you do have the worries if you're in a hotel with a shiny desktop surface and it doesn't work, you have to go throw some
well,
paper.
you say that, but yeah, it was almost as if you've kind of lined that up for me. So the new MX Master 4 actually works on glass. One of the actual features of it, it will work on a glass surface. So
All
I've got
right.
the Master 3. I can't wait to get my hands on a 4. It's got haptic feedback. It's got recycled cobalt in the battery, loads of great new features. But yeah, you can use it on glass. That's one of its other
Oh,
cool
okay,
features.
very nice.
There you
And
go.
then
We should
the
get you one.
third, maybe I'll eventually I'll meet somebody at Logitech who'll send me. The
When I get mine, I'll get you one.
thank you. The third track then that we need to talk about because there was just an announcement are headsets. Now, Logi had some. Oh God, I forget what the year was, but they had released some pretty bulky, boxy kind of headsets that sort of kind of worked, But that's how everybody gets into the business. The Zone Wireless products are really awesome, and there were now two new products that just came out about a month ago, as we're talking about it. One is the Zone Wired product and one is a lesser expensive version of the Zone Wireless called the Wireless 2 ES.
Yeah.
So you want to tell us about that just for a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll do my best. As I say, I've got my headset badge. So Scott and Kai and our headset team, hoping I'm going to do you proud. But the two new headsets, build on the portfolio. So the Zone 2 is our kind of flagship premium product. Multiple microphones, great ANC, not just transmit ANC, but also receive ANC as well. And again, the fact that we have, very large, they're 40 mil drivers in this, so they sound great. But what we really wanted to do is to try and bring that down to ES stands for essentials, to try and make it a bit more available for the masses. So we've kind of trimmed down some of the capabilities, talked to some of the customers to try and create like a more of a mid-market, the persona for the kind of general user.
Mhm.
So we've added in some additional capabilities around. There's a lovely headband in there, makes it way more comfortable for all day wearing. Still got those 40 mil drivers in there, couple less microphones in there, but still great ANC. But the other thing that's kind of a unique to Logi, I've not seen many, if any, headsets look at this new Microsoft Teams format, which is called native Bluetooth. We've always had, that story of, you need a dongle, you need the little USB pluggy in thing. If you want Teams certification with the Microsoft Teams Open Office certification, you always needed to have a dongle. You always needed to have that third part. Even if your laptop had Bluetooth, you
You
still needed.
wanted the higher bandwidth capabilities.
Yeah, and to do the call control, the Teams button, and all of that kind of stuff, you needed to have that dongle with that. This new functionality with Microsoft Teams, this native Bluetooth, is supported across the Zone Wireless range. And again, if you look on the Microsoft site, there are few, if not any, of our competitors that have jumped on this new standard. So we're really excited about that to be able to offer this, cut the cord and cut the dongle to be able to offer that native Bluetooth capability. Latest
And
Bluetooth.
if you do a search for Nathan on LinkedIn, you can see some video of him wearing it and talking about how comfortable it is, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, it's a really nice headset, and again, if you're looking at a headset for Teams, and again, the challenge. This is the interesting thing, and you'll probably relate to this, David. But there was a post. I think it was Nancy or someone put it up recently that showed like a laptop from like 5 or 10 years ago, and had a ton of ports on the side of it. It had like HDMI and DVI and 3 or 4 USBs and all on the side and on the back. Nowadays, I mean, how many ports has your laptop got? It's got like two USB-Cs if you're lucky. They're just trimming it down. You don't even get an HDMI even these days. So again, that kind of challenge around connectivity is big. So you have to then carry around like a hub. You carry like a USB-C hub with you, or one of those stupid breakout adapters for HDMI and USB. So ports are becoming a real challenge on the latest Macs and PCs. So anything we can do to kind of simplify that thing. And the other thing is that people always leave them hanging out of their laptop, stuff it in their bag, and they snap and break, or they'll lose it. So again, I think that native Bluetooth thing is a real,
Mhm.
a real game changer with regards to just it's just solves that friction of like, oh, I've got to have a dongle. Oh, it's another less port. I've got again my USB power. I've got other cables plugged into my laptop. I've got no ports left for a USB Bluetooth dongle. So
Now the other headset that was released is a wired version of with the same features and comfort factor, or many of
yeah.
the same features as the Zone Wireless. It's now called the Zone Wired.
Well, some people like a cable. Some people like copper, rather than Magic Pixies. There are obviously environments where Magic Pixies and wireless aren't allowed and wired works better. The other interesting fact is you can actually use the Zone 2 wireless as a wired headset. So not only when you plug the cable in will it charge it, but actually sends the audio over that cable as well. A
Okay.
lot of the wireless headsets, when you plug a USB cable in, it doesn't actually run the audio over it just charges it. But yeah, Zone 2 wired obviously brings a lesser price point again for users that want to have say a wired solution again, some environments where no radios are allowed maybe.
Or when
uh,
you're using too many of them in a dense area and you want to have them
yeah, although
separate.
we're getting over that now, actually. It's interesting. Again, I was doing some testing on the latest Bluetooth standards, and both congestion and distance now is getting, near, if not comparable, if not sometimes better than what we used to be used to in the kind of traditional old deck technology. So Bluetooth really is kind of getting a lot better now with regards to, again, density, congestion, and range, where it really is, say a compelling alternative to say the older deck technology, which is the challenge with DeCT is obviously you just can't use it on your mobile phone or your cell phone, as you guys call it over there. But you can only really use it on your PC, and then when you want to then have a headset that can be dual purpose, it doesn't really work. So I'm excited about that, and I'm going to do some side by side testing. I'm going to go and take a laptop out to a park and a field and take a one of the new Bluetooth headsets, the new Zone wireless, sorry, and a traditional older decked headset, and kind of walk and see how far I can go. And so stay tuned. That's the video I'm promising myself to shoot.
We're going to look forward to seeing that. So I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you a couple of questions that I know you can't answer.
Uh-huh.
So forgive me. But with the last two announcements from Neat and from Cisco, there are only two legacy Android video conferencing manufacturers that haven't moved on to Microsoft's MDEP.
Mhm.
That's HP, and we know the HP story better than most. And then there's Logi. So I'm assuming that it's going to be in a future release of a future product, even though it hasn't been announced yet. Is there anything that you can say about that, knowing the answer is no?
Uh, I'll obviously say that I'm only 3 weeks in, so I haven't even actually seen the roadmap myself, so I can't actually give away any secrets. So
Well, okay.
it's a
It's
brilliant thing. Normally,
dangerous,
I know all the
lucky.
roadmap and have to kind of stay tight-lipped, but the great thing is that I haven't actually seen the roadmap myself, so I can't really talk about it. I think.
And the other vendor that we were talking about, we're coming up on November, which is typically when they let people go. So we'll have some more ex-Poly colleagues, I'm sure, within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know who they are, but it's what's the old expression about Winston Churchill that was quoted by Winston Churchill? So every once in a while, mankind stumbles over the truth, but usually he gets up and keeps going. It's those guys wouldn't recognize a codec if they tripped over one. So.
I'd like again. I'm not obviously going to talk about our previous employer. Yeah, unfair of me. But I think there's a couple of people I want to call out. Seeing as you've just given me the floor to do that. Stephen Schaefer. You know Stephen Schaefer as
Oh
well
my
as I.
God, Mr. Camera, Mr.
He's a
Director.
legend, an absolute legend.
Well, that is the qualification at that
Yeah.
company to let people go.
I still quote again. We were before we set up. You were saying about my terrible lighting and the shadows under my eyes. Stephen drummed into my head. Yeah, the rule of thirds. Make sure your eyes are in the top third of the video. Frame it right. Get it. Look. And again, an absolute awesome. Tag him in this. Make sure he sees this because Stephen is, a huge mentor of mine when it came to learning about cameras and optics and all that kind of good stuff. And I know he's potentially looking for a new role. So if you want an amazing camera guy, camera technology guy, he's like a filmmaker. His father was in cinematography and everything. So crikey, I can't say too that many good things about Stephen Legend. And I just saw Jeff Dersham actually, so I pinged him a note on LinkedIn as well. So and again,
He
another
just
great,
announced that he was leaving before anything else happened.
yeah. So
So did Erica. Some of the so yeah, we have a lot of colleagues that realize November's coming up and they're getting out before they're told they have to. So it is a sad story, the legacy there, but what the heck? I guess they had a legacy. It was the garage, so they weren't going to compare legacies. So where are we going to see you next? Where are you going to be traveling to?
well, I just got back from Warsaw, so that was amazing. But I'm really hoping and excited to go to Microsoft Ignite again. I was there last year, yeah,
Third week
last
of November, 17th, 18th,
just
19th.
before my birthday.
Oh, well,
So 24th is my birthday for anyone who's watching. But yeah, I'm excited to go. I think it's in San Francisco this year. So yeah,
maybe. I didn't look very carefully, but yeah.
yeah, I think it's in San Francisco. So I'm excited to go to Ignite. Obviously get all the new Teams updates and all the Microsoft updates being an MVP. But then we're going to have some fun in Barcelona again,
Well,
David.
I'm going to be in Vegas for CES. I'm
Okay.
very pleased to. I haven't been able to announce it yet. You can wrong shoulder. You can look over my shoulder. I was a judge again this year. I'm very pleased about that, and we can
I'd
talk
like
about
to
it
do
now
that one.
because the judging's
I've
over.
never done it. And
Come across
I've always looked at it from
Logitech
afar.
always has had a wonderful suite.
Yeah,
I've been there a few
again,
times.
I will maybe see if I can get on the docket for that. But yeah, it's always again as for my own personal geek outness, CES is definitely on the radar for all the new
Okay.
tech.
And
But
then we will be the 1st of February
yeah,
arriving in Barcelona, although you might be earlier than that to do ISC this year. There's going to be a lot of Talking Points is doing our pick hits again this year, so
mm,
we're going to give an opportunity to a lot of vendors to really get out of the noise floor. I going back to when it was in Amsterdam, in Barcelona now it's like what is it, 8, 9, 10 halls.
mm,
And thousands of exhibitors, and you can walk in there for a day and only see an eighth of it. So we kind of
yeah.
look at our space and collaboration and communications and say, you know what? These are the stories that should get above the noise floor. So
It's funny.
hopefully you guys,
I went to IBC and it was like a trip down memory lane going to the Rye again. It was
yeah.
it felt so kind of like like home. Walking under that tunnel underneath between halls 10 and 11 and down to sort of 6 and 7. It was like felt like an old jacket you were getting back into.
And Tim Albright and I talked about IBC 2 weeks ago. Actually, it was only
Yeah,
on for a couple of days
in,
before all the
interesting
news
show.
broke. But yeah, it's a show I will go to in the future. One of the companies that I work with, kind of as an aside, the IEEE
Mm.
nonprofit is an owner of that show, and I'm sure I will be in Amsterdam for that in the past. But I got to Amsterdam for the Tulip Festival this year, so that was nice.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so we will definitely see you in Barcelona. Maybe we'll see you at Ignite.
I'm sure.
And we will see you on the YouTubes, right? You'll be around and doing your typical
Yeah,
interviews and stuff.
I'm thinking. So I've been doing more on the LinkedIn's these days, but a question to the audience: Would you like to would you like to see more Neil? That's probably a wrong thing to say, but like, should I? A couple of people have said, why don't you start up another, show? You've got the mic now, for the weekly thing, but maybe I could do something monthly. You got the Monday slot that you took over, which is really
Well, you
nice.
can be my field reporter for Ignite because I don't think I'm going there this
Oh
year.
well,
So
there you
we
go.
could do some live feeds from there. Although the truth of the
That'd be
matter is,
interesting.
and I'm not saying anything against my wonderful Microsoft friends, um, Teams and collaboration is such a tiny part of Ignite right now, with Copilot
Mm.
being in charge of everything, that I don't know if heading there is worth it. I'm sure Ilya will have a great session there like he did last year,
It'll
but
be packed.
they didn't
Always.
even video it last year. There was no video, there was just audio.
Yeah.
So but you can be our field reporter for that event if you'd
I
like.
would absolutely love that. And again, I'd love to hear again whether people think I should start up doing more YouTube videos. I like the idea of doing more product reviews. I love doing that. And also doing some again, like I was saying about that headset. I'd like to do more educational stuff that kind of again digs under the surface again, like the comparison between I did one a long time ago of optical versus digital sensors on cameras, which did really well, and I like the idea of again that more educational content.
Sure.
So again, maybe
You
like
might have a
gadgets,
little bit of a
YouTube.
bias if you're testing equipment, people
Uh,
might
I would like to. I'd like to try and be as what I really the way I wanted to angle it. And again, I'm open to feedback from your audience, so do comment below. Was what I really wanted to do is kind of like
How should
lay.
people comment? How should people reach you to get information to you? What's the new
Well,
email?
they can definitely reach me on LinkedIn. Go and
Okay.
find Neil Fluester or Neil at Logi. You'll find me. But yeah, I was thinking about again just laying out all of the features and functions and stuff, and then so that then the viewer can make their own decision. So I'm not going to go it's great or it's rubbish. I'll just go it does this, and this. If those are important to you, you'll love it. If they're not important to you, you won't love it. So maybe that's the angle of just I won't say if it's good or bad. I'll just explain all of its capabilities and you can then empower you to make your own decisions. So maybe that's the kind of review angle I'll look at. But again, I'm open to comments.
And maybe you can get some products in like an early release mode and start demonstrating and showing people what to expect, so you'll have
Mm.
to, we don't want to put you in any kind of bad state. But as I was chatting with you before we started, I have a lot of respect for the people that are running your group right now. Jed is a terrific guy. And,
Mhm.
Aspen Molden, I've known go back to the Blue Jeans days. You got a great team there. And you
My
and
my
Nathan
boss is
and
from Blue Jeans as well, Aaron Dunley. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. But yeah, it's like again talking like going back to the Rye being like an old familiar place. Being at Logitech's very familiar as well. There's some great old friends of ours. Jochen Idam's there, Layla Lewis is there. Yeah, obviously Nathan's there. There's a whole bunch of people. The industry's so small, so there's people. It's like a family. So it's nice getting back with the old band again.
it
So
is at a good company. At a
yes,
company that's not so good, it's not really as much of a family as it is a
yeah,
chopping block. But
yeah.
in any case, Neil, thanks very much for the time. I appreciate it. Congratulations on the new role.
Thank you, David.
And I think we've just committed to seeing you again in about a month when you'll be
Li-
reporting from Ignite.
Live from Ignite.
There you go. Awesome.
You
Thanks again. And thank you very much for watching us every week as you do. This is David Danto for Talking Points. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.